Hi, my name is Adam Ekberg. I'm an artist residing in New Jersey, and I make photographs of things that I make happen in the world. A lot of the work began when I just moved to Chicago from Maine for graduate school, and prior to that I had been working in assisted living, taking care of people with HIV and AIDS as a nurse's aide. And during that time, several documentary projects were made on our residents that didn't seem to quite encapsulate what that experience was like of being with someone at the end of their life. And so I drove back to Maine, and with the help of a friend, we went up a mountain at dusk and took a picture of a disco ball radiating light throughout the woods. It involved carrying a car battery to a power inverter, a smoke machine, and all these things to sort of make this event happen. And then was staging this event, which to us, or to me, seemed much closer to representing the experience of being with someone at the end of their life than maybe documentary photography did for me. So making photographs, I've learned the hard way that trying really hard doesn't work, which is very frustrating. So I tend to have to kind of wait for them. And so the origin story is usually sort of self-isolation. Sometimes it's an artist residency, sometimes it's something as simple as going for a walk, or I go on a lot of bicycle trips. And that's where sort of ideas originate from. And they usually become a sketch, at least a sketch in my mind, but usually a sketch in a notebook. And from there I have to sort of figure out how to make something happen. So like all things, they look very easy from 30,000 feet. They look quite simple. I acquire materials, I come up with a basic idea, and then it's a matter of making that event happen and existing at least long enough to be photographed. And then the photograph has to have zero digital manipulation. So it's the camera is merely there as a witness. Locations vary widely from usually domestic United States, from Oregon to New England, oftentimes in the Midwest, because it's a place where I have access to a horizon line. Oftentimes what I'm looking for is a simple environment which underscores the aloneness of the happening. And so oftentimes I'm in northeastern Indiana on a farm, which seems to function as a great place, just to have a space in which there's nothing around to be distracting. One of the ones that was a lot of fun to make was one of lawn chair catapults. So I had this basic sketch. I had a rough idea this was going to work. I had done some tests in my backyard by dropping this cinder block on a 1x6 that was on a 5-gallon bucket to launch this lawn chair. And I vaguely had a sense this would work. So a friend of mine and I drove out, the 12-hour drive or whatever it was. And over the course of days, we just repeatedly did this over and over again. And I forget how many sheets of film we shot, but it was probably about 25. And everything went wrong. Sometimes the board would break in half, the lawn chair would shoot out of frame. And I really wanted it to be very specific. I really wanted the lawn chair to be above the horizon line. And there's all these little things in the image, just to have it up in the air does not really convey it. But I wanted to have the feeling that potentially could kind of go on forever. The timing of the photograph is extremely important because there's really one moment where it all comes together. And if you were to sort of see my practice, it's usually things falling over, breaking, going wrong. And in all of that, there's one moment where whatever the photograph is, it all goes right. And hopefully I'm there and I trip the shutter at the right moment, and that's the moment where it all happens. So I want things to sort of feel a certain way. Like when I threw the eclipse in the air, I want to sort of feel almost like planetary, like it's just hovering there forever. Or if milk's transferring through a series of vessels, it sort of feels as if that's really happening. When in fact, what's often happening is I'm just throwing pineapples in the air and breaking them, or the milk is falling and things are splashing and breaking and I'm cleaning them up. But in all of that, there's one moment where it all comes together, which hopefully in that photographic moment, it lies perfectly and creates this image that looks like there's a potential for something more than what was there. When people see my work, I hope it's an offering, and I hope it meets them where they're at. And so, there's the reason I do it, and I have an investigation. I'm following my own personal rabbit hole to the bottom. And I don't necessarily expect other people to be interested in that. But what I hope the work does is it's open enough that someone can come to it on any given day in a good or bad mood, and have a relationship to it. And that it'll sort of meet them where they are, that they'll see these moments, moments that are fleeting but kind of captured in a relative permanence in a photographic state. And I think that, when met with a whole room full of those, as whimsical or as absurdist as they are, there is sort of a heightened feeling of really being with something.